Good afternoon, Scott here, known as Cantaloupe to some online, and I'm bringing a video to you on a subject that's interesting to me. It might be of interest to you or someone you know. And I want to react to a video I just watched by the beautiful Bailey on YouTube, and I will link that below in the description. She poses the question, what makes us who we are? In the video, she covers quite a few ideas, a lot of territory, and I want to weigh in with an answer if I can. She covers ideas such as nature versus nurture and determinism versus free will and some other things. And I think that the question itself can be rephrased to be more accurate, more appropriate, because I understand the spirit of the question, and sometimes the question can be improved. So what makes us who we are is kind of like asking what part of the brain does the identity reside in? And it's not really an answerable question, because a person isn't necessarily made up of nature or nurture or some linear combination thereof, some kind of point in between. It's more about the decisions you make and the influences that affect those decisions. It's the decisions themselves and the memories behind them, if you ask me, that make up who we are, especially the memories. Just how when you make a friend, or if you have a lover, some kind of romantic relationship, the shared experiences you have with that person form the basis of your relationship itself. The memories that you create together become the identity of the relationship. And the same is true for individuals, where you have experiences, you practice things, you go through life and you learn things, you say certain phrases, you consider things, and you grow and develop as a processing organic unit that you're basically a computer. Your head's kind of a computer, and you're not silicon based, you're carbon based, but it makes no difference when it comes to processing information, accessing memories and storage, and choosing a branch of code execution, which is basically what people do. We decide courses of action, and those decisions and the sum of all those decisions in a given time frame to kind of determine who we are as people, if you ask me. So this touches on the subject that she brought up of free will versus determinism. I want to talk about that just very quickly. So free will, also known as agency, is not a new idea. Agency is your ability to choose to do something, and she makes some good points, some good logical debatable points in her video about whether or not free will even exists. She says she would rather not have to believe that all of our decisions are pre-made, that there is no free will, that everything is destined no matter what we do in a given universe. There is actually an answer, and I have made this video before about this. It helps to visualize free will in the context of, again, with a computer, a virtual machine. I do a lot of computer work, so I use these examples. But if you know what a virtual machine is, you take a snapshot. You can have, a system. It could be very large or small, makes no difference, but you can pause it, you can rewind it, you can start from an image, but no matter what, there is a boundary around it. It's a closed system. A virtual machine is a closed system, so this is important and relevant. From within that system, when it's running, it has no concept of external time. The time that it has, unless it's going out onto the larger network and communicating with some external source, is all internal. When you pause a virtual machine, it doesn't know that it's been paused. When you reboot the virtual machine, it doesn't necessarily know that it's been rebooted, even though you can skip forward or backward from the outside. And the same is true in our universe, or any universe that is encompassed by an event horizon. There's something called determinism with respect to the universe from outside, just like there's determinism from outside the virtual machine. Whereas inside, if you're relative to the observer, inside the same system, things become subject to change, subject to free will, subject to decision-making that is not yet brought to fruition until it happens. And it's a very interesting thing. It's the boundary of time is what determines it. So the answer is both. Short story, the answer is both, depending on your location as the asker of the question in relation to the subject, if that makes sense. So yes, free will is a thing. If you're inside a universe, you can absolutely choose, and this is a big part of who you are, turns out. Your agency, your free will, is, if you, I don't want to get too spiritual or preachy, but it's God's gift to people that they can own their consequences. They can choose a direction or a course of action and own what comes out of it, good and bad, all the consequences. We own that choice because we made that choice. And yeah, that determines who you are in the immediate term and in the long term. And the sum of your entire life, it has an effect, of course, on your personality. And I think her question is kind of about personality. So, yes, we are influenced by our upbringing. We're influenced by the adults that we knew growing up, but she made the mistake. I will take issue with this point she made in her video, that young people and people in general emulate adults. I think that that's a huge assumption. And I'll speak from my own experience. Many times adults gave me reasons to act differently, how not to act, that is, how to not make the same mistakes that I was seeing them make, because people are different. You know, maybe you're seeing adults make very bad mistakes and you want to maybe not follow in their footsteps. So to say that people just, you know, have no mind of their own and they blindly follow in the footsteps of those who came before them, that's a bit of an exaggeration, I think. So a lot of it is internal. You can think about people, again, for the last time, in terms of computers, there's hardware and software, right? So you're born with a set of hardware that's the hereditary, the nature part, right? And the software is your environment. The software is the programs that run, the information and education that you're given and you accumulate growing up, but they can be different between different people. So identical twins sometimes have very different personalities, and it's not because they're different, genetic bases, because they're identical, right? But they chose differently. They became different people because of the courses they took in life and the decisions that they made. And if you don't believe me that you have free will, place some things in front of you, some objects, and choose which one to reach out to. You made a choice. You own that choice. You can change your mind. You can reach out to a different one. It's pretty clear and obvious that within this system, like I said, you have the right to choose. You have the ability to choose. You own the consequences. And one of my favorite sayings on this subject is, you may be through with the past, but the past is not through with you. So the last thing I want to say in regards to her video, as far as what makes us who we are in terms of criminals, like she talked about watching a lot of documentaries about dramatic events in these people's lives, I want to mention in a very big way that history is written by the victors. You've heard this. Now, what does that mean in terms of biographies? It means that you don't hear any stories about average, mediocre stuff. It's going to fly to extremes because it's sensational when you do that. So by the time a decision is made by an authority or the author themselves about a character, a real historical person in question, they're going to fly it to some extreme. It's going to be a heroic, admirable, adventurous situation or deed that they did, or it's going to be totally criminal and blown way out of proportion. They're going to do all the things that she mentioned and that you see in these TV shows, because nobody wants to hear no news. Nobody wants to hear that there was, no catastrophe. There was no, nothing to write home about, as they say, because that wouldn't sell the TV show, among other things. It's not just about sales, but there's that aspect too. It wouldn't be interesting watching necessarily. The last thing I'll say about this is I think that there have been a lot of historically benevolent dictatorships that you don't hear about on the same token. This is an example. Not that I'm selling dictatorships or monarchies, but I think that if you look at it logically, the ones that were benevolent were not uneventful, right? They were uneventful, and therefore they weren't newsworthy or history-worthy. You just never heard about them because they were so successful. They were peaceful, and therefore there was nothing to write about. People don't want to hear about peacetime. Nothing went on. People were happy. They were, making love and farming and stuff, and there was nothing else to write about. So you hear about the evil ones. You hear about the tragedies. You hear about, the ones who cut off all of their subjects' heads and stuff. And there are tons and tons of great leaders out there. I'm convinced. You just never hear about them. And it's kind of sad. It's sad that people have such a bloodthirsty desire to hear bad news sometimes. Sensational news, I should say. either tales of heroism or tales of tragedy, but never the truth, per se, if you ask me. Anyway, reach out with questions or comments to whitehotrobot@gmail.com. Thank you.